Hey everybody, thank you so much for being here. It's great to see you all. I am so excited. Stephen Mead is here. Let's clap. To see this space filled up with euphonium aficionados, that's awesome. I have a few people I have to thank before this masterclass. This is a part of every concert where I start to fall asleep, but it's really, really important. So first, I really need to thank the UL Lafayette concert series headed by Sean Roy for making this happen. The School of Music here at UL Lafayette and Sarah Burke, the interim director. The UL Lafayette brass faculty, Dr. Morton, Dr. Roche Wallace, and Mr. Caponera, thank you so much. The South Louisiana Band Directors Association helped fund this trip and this masterclass, and I really appreciate everything they've done to make this happen, so thank you. Ronnie Gleason at Lafayette High School also helped a lot with this, helped out with logistics, so I really appreciate that. Thank you, Ronnie. Dr. Choi is here, not here anymore, but you'll get to see and hear her tonight. She's been playing piano with Mr. Mead. And a couple other people I want to thank publicly in this place. Ashley Thibodeau and Claire Cousin. Claire, raise your hand, Claire. Claire's been driving Mr. Mead around. Today at this masterclass and tonight at the recital at 7 p.m. is a collaboration of a lot of different people here in Lafayette, and I really appreciate that collaboration in making this happen. Without anything else, Mr. Mead, thank you so much.
I'm very, very happy to be here, and for the first time, not the last time, I apologize that my trip in October was cancelled. I was really pretty ill. I could have been here, but it wouldn't have been much to listen to or watch at that time. So I'm happy to be back in pretty much full strength. And what a beautiful situation this is. And I enjoyed the brass concerts, the different groups today. That was great. I guess a lot of you played in it. Put your hand up if you're involved with that. Yeah, beautiful sound. Hope you enjoyed it. And so, what do we do in a masterclass? Well, I'm going to just talk to you for just a few minutes, and then we have 3 of you who are going to perform. Difficult thing, no piano, just come up and play, and I'm going to tell you what you're doing well, and I'm going to suggest a few things that you can work on. And then save up your difficult questions for the end. There'll be at least, if I get my timings right, 10 or 12 minutes, any questions you have in mind. So, people always say, you know, did I play euphonium all my life, and what age should I start? So let's just cover that in case you're curious. So, my earliest sounds were listening to a brass band. I must have been 3 or 4 years old, several hundred years ago. And I remember on a Sunday, my parents took me to the Salvation Army, and I remember sitting very bored listening to people, blah, 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 blah. But when the band played, my eyes just lit up. And the most beautiful memory I have with my late father, who took me during the sermon. He used to take me out of the Salvation Army, and we stood on a bridge, and where the train from Bournemouth Central to London Waterloo went past underneath, and it was a steam train. That's how long ago it was. So we saw this train. We got covered in steam, and then as the steam died away, we heard the sound of the brass band playing the final hymn tune of the day, and I just loved that sound. I loved that sound so much. And I was 3 or 4. Dad, I want to be in the band. He said, hang on. I talked to the junior band leader, and he said he'll get you an instrument when you're 5 years old. Really a long time ago. On my 5th birthday, either Saturday or Sunday, the conductor gave me a little cornet in a really weird shaped leather case. And I ran down the road and I marched with the band as it was coming up for the evening ceremony. That band used to work so hard. So that was the beginning. But I also like to sing. My earliest musical memory is singing songs. And my parents got me a wonderful singing teacher. Her name's Marvis Walters. She's 98 years old now, still going. And she coached me as a singer every Monday night until I was around 12 years old. And at that point, I'd done all my examinations. I'd been a performer. All the people in my hometown knew me as a singer, not as a brass player. Meanwhile, the junior band leader had taken away the cornet and replaced it with an alto horn. So I was working my way down the band. 2 years later, it was a baritone. you say baritone, I know that can be euphonium in the States, but the brass band baritone is a smaller instrument, medium bore, smaller bore, and more cylindrical. So it's really cool. You don't have any baritones here. They're pretty special. I guess you'd call it a brass band baritone. And I love that instrument. I used to play for school assemblies, and I remember thinking, this is cool to be a musician. But I was still a singer. At the age of 12, my voice, I stopped being able to hit all the high notes that I could sing, Mozart's Hallelujah, Hallelujah, but an octave higher. And so that was a tragedy, really. I thought my singing days were finished. But I had this euphonium, and for my 12th birthday, my sister, Sandra, gave me an LP. Now, some of you are going, oh, what? This is the old black discs, which if you saw it now, you'd probably throw it to see how far it would go without, yeah. But that was our listening, long playing records. And on that LP was a guy called Barry Perrins, who played euphonium. It was an LP with the Hendon Band in London, and he played this. Yes, he played it. Yeah. I could go a lot of places and I played that and they go, don't know. I thought it was really famous. In fact, when I was 12, it was about the only tune that I listened to every day because I listened to this euphonium solo in the first variation. Bum, 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 billy, dum, bum, bum, billy, dum, bum, billy, dum. I thought, wow, this euphonium is pretty cool. And it's the same as Mead. And so that tune and that performance absolutely hooked me to be a euphonium player. And so I remember these big white crazy headphones, plugged it into the hi-fi system, you go, oh. And I would play along with it. And I would try and play the tune just as beautiful as Mr. Perrins. And I tried to make the technique just as clear. And that was, everybody needs a little fire lit under them as a musician. And then the following year, the school I was at, the guy who used to supervise the dinner queue for lunch, we used to call them blobs, and that was a really terrible thing, because they're really nice old men, but we called them a blob. And he said, Stephen, I know you play the euphonium. Did you know that the Black Dyke Mills Band is coming to the Winter Gardens in Bournemouth next month? I'll get you some tickets. So I went with my dad, and Mr. Blob was the other side. And honestly, I can still remember every note of that concert. I remember John Clough, who was the euphonium player, became one of my idols, stood up, and my head just exploded. And I was sitting out, if that was the stage, I was sitting right over here, but I had a little cassette player in my chair with a little microphone. And I recorded everything and I listened to it 1,000 times. So by the age of 14, all I wanted to do was play euphonium. And a year later, I was at Bournemouth School. I said, we're going to have a careers meeting. You all get 10 minutes with the careers teacher, Mr. Maxted. So he said, so Mead, what are you going to do? I said, play euphonium, sir. And he immediately starts flicking through his handbook of careers. How do you spell it? E-U-P-H-O. It's not here. He was used to working with people who wanted to be accountants and bankers and lawyers. It was in school. And I wanted to play euphonium. He was all confused. So he said, I think you should play trombone. I said, sir, I play trombone. Have you heard me play? I play in the jazz group at school. I said, I'm shocking on trombone. I scare birds with the trombone. Okay, well maybe tuba. I said, have you seen the size of me? Tuba was like here then, you know? So anyway, unperturbed, I entered the Young Musician of the Year competition, BBC, you know, and I got to the final of that, 5 brass players, the only euphonium. That was really cool. And I auditioned to the Royal Academy of Music, and they said, well, Stephen Mead, you play very well, but we have no space, we don't do euphonium. And I even wrote a letter to say, we don't recognize the euphonium as an instrument for professional study. That was like a dagger to the heart. And so I kept the letter. 10 years ago, after that, 1989, they asked me to be their first euphonium teacher at the Royal Academy. And I had the letter in my back pocket on my first day. I didn't show anyone, but it was just for me. We do not recognize. And so that was the beginning. I went to university, did an academic music degree. I became a high school teacher, absolutely loved that. I had a double life. From 7 in the morning to when school started, I was a euphonium player. I tried to be a very good high school teacher. I conducted the school brass band, recorder ensemble, that was cool. They even let me conduct the junior string orchestra. How do you tune junior strings? just do something with it. And anyway, and I produced the school shows, we did musicals, all of that was so cool. And then I got a call to say, would you like to do a recital at the Royal Academy of Music? Yes. And I went there. Any of you know classical composers? On the second row was Joseph Horowitz. Edward Gregson was over here. It was like, oh, I didn't know they'd be there. But the hall was full of famous people. So I had to play well. It was like, this is your one shot. You'll all get those moments in life. An audition, a competition. And boy, you better be ready when that moment comes. I did a very nice recital. Even if Joseph Horowitz came backstage and said, Stephen, well done. Do you have a moment? It was the intermission. Can I just, here, you could go a little faster, here. He spent the whole of the break telling me how I should play it differently. And it was like, I just need a break. Anyway, working with Joe Horowitz became a wonderful experience, and I worked with him for the next 20 years, developing a new solo part. He came to the United States, he conducted the US Army Band in January, and I played his concerto with him conducting. That was amazing. And I recorded it with the brass band, and on his 80th birthday, I recorded the Horowitz concerto with Horowitz conducting with the Royal Ballet Sinfonia Orchestra. Just about the only orchestral version. And that was Horowitz's birthday present from the record company. Anyway, to cut a long story short, 1989, I started teaching in London and Birmingham and Manchester and Glasgow, which would be like teaching in Texas and Wisconsin in the same week, and on other countries in between, other states in between. So I did that for a few years. Then I concentrated on Birmingham and Manchester. And then for the last 34 years, I've been Professor of Euphonium at the Royal Northern College of Music, which is the epicenter of the brass band world. Now, I could talk to you for the next hour and a half about brass bands. And you go, oh, interesting. It's been a passion of mine. I grew up playing in the Desford Colliery Band. That was my first really great band. Where the euphonium is fully exploited, my goodness. Occasionally you get a decent part in the wind orchestra. But when you see a euphonium part with brass bands, it's like a violin part. You play everything. You play the runs, you become a principal voice. And when we play classical arrangements, you play the violin solos, the clarinet solos, no holds barred. So I grew up doing that with high school teacher, moving into music conservatories. And I've been very lucky for the last 30 years to go around the world. My first trip to the United States was 1990. My first concert was 3 days later with the US Army Band on the steps of the Capitol building, boiling hot. American Airlines had lost my suitcase for 2 days, so I had these horrible stinky old jeans, not in the concert. My suitcase arrived about an hour before. 2 days later, I went to be judge at the Falcone competition, and at the Falcone competition, I met Jim and Bill Gray, who formed 2 years later the brass band of Battle Creek, and I come every year since 1992, so it's 32, going on 33 years as principal euphonium of the brass band of Battle Creek. So that's my story. It started off with a series of rejections. You're going to have to switch to trombone. Have you thought about the tuba? To having the freedom to travel and play as a professional player. So if there is a moral in the story, whatever you want badly enough, you can do. Now you may go, yeah, sure. But if you really believe it and you don't give up at the first hurdle and you work hard, you can do whatever you want to do. Probably Elon Musk may have got there first in terms of making rockets or whatever your aspirations are. But a musician, if you practice hard and if you love what you do and you practice, my motto always was practice when other people are sleeping. Early morning, practice late at night. When I was 13 years old, I shared a bedroom with my brother. We were pretty really small house. About 9:15, my mum will poke her head around the door. Because we lived in a semi-detached house. So I would have practiced till midnight, even then, and she would say, I think it's enough, you've been playing since 7 o'clock. So I loved practicing. When I was at university, it wasn't a performing course. I had a little motorbike, and my euphonium was on my back, and my trombone was in the front, and I would get there every day at 7 o'clock when they opened the door, and I would practice until lecture started. And then in the evening, I would go to play in the brass band, and I'd take my little motorbike to the Students' Union, to the top floor next to the laundry, and I'd play there until 11:30 when they kicked me out. Now you may say, yeah, good for you. But it was what I needed to do. I was absolutely addicted to playing well. So that's it really in terms of introduction. I'm not going to play a lot now because I hope you're going to come to the concert and I have more than enough music, more than enough fast and high notes and pedal tones and everything in between. But we're going to hear 3 players now, so this is exciting. Jonas, I'm going to invite you up first. Let's give him a big, big... So since I arrived, Jonas's mother was telling me about him in the car, and I've heard all sorts of things about you today as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing about it. I've heard a little bit. I'm on your lucky grease now. You sure that's not going to slide around? Great. So Jonas is going to play a little section from a piece written for me in 1996 by a German composer, Rolf Wilhelm. He was introduced to me at a festival, and he said, I'm told I need to write you a piece of music. And 9 months later it arrived. It's a really cool piece. Rolf sadly is no longer here. Rolf died about 14 years ago. I'm still in contact with his widow. She's a lovely lady, Bavarian lady. So play a few notes. I don't need to start absolutely cold. Do what you do when you're at home, just to warm up really quickly. The boy can play. Right, so this first movement, it's got some movement, but it's not really fast. It's kind of a prelude, has some lovely sentimental. A few times he mentions con sentimento or dolce or cantabile. So it's that side, and that also reflected Wilhelm's personality. Lovely, genial, funny guy. Obviously enjoyed a few beers in his youth. So, you ready to go? We'll certainly try and get as far as there. Okay. together, and there they are. So what happens sometimes when we become a little anxious is that things change. The breathing changes from the normal relaxed way. We become a little bit like that, and also medium fast tempos suddenly become very fast tempos. So the beginning, I said it's not a fast piece. It gives us a tempo range of 112 to 120 recommended usage. And we went which is closer to 138. Now, I'm sure you don't normally play it at that tempo. No. So one of the things is to really try and internalize the pulse. Even if your heart is beating 116 as opposed to your normal 92, you have to relate that. How does the music go? So I always think, what's the point of being nervous? Because it's the same music that you played at home. It's the same music. It's the same. And then you get all the character. If you go too fast, it's just like something out of one of your method books that says Allegro molto. Off you go. But this piece has lots and lots of character. Very important, Allegro ma non troppo. What does ma non troppo mean? Can you tell me, expert?
Not too much.
Not too much. So he put a little proviso in there. And when I did the recording of this in Norway with the Lillestrøm Musicals, one of the top wind bands, and the conductor was the conductor of the Dutch Marine Band, that's a pretty good pedigree. And we had the composer came to Norway for the weekend. And every time I played something, the composer would say, just a minute, Stephen, do you think you could just take your time a bit more? So it was a long time ago. I was young. You're younger than me. You still have this impetuosity. I've controlled it now. As you get older, things kind of balance out. So let's just try the beginning. And keep all, you've got a great sound, you've got a fantastic technique. Let's just put the seatbelt on. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Isn't that beautiful? It's a different piece of music. The devil is still in how we treat the short notes. And you went ba-da-da-da-da-dum, so when the 16ths come along, you still, and when in the little wrong notes creeping in, can we just try that measure? You take your time, 1, 2, 3, and now we hear everything. So you may have the right pulse, but if within that pulse it's slightly out, then it's going to feel unsettling, and you'll want to go faster to catch up with the speed of your short notes. Okay, that was good. You try that bar. We've got an awkward whole tone trill. Semitone trills are okay, but whole tones, I'm going to recommend 1 and 2 to 2. Try that measure. Alright, just adjust that in your head. So what trill were you doing before? Were you doing open to second? Yeah, and that works. But is slightly easier to hold the pitches than which actually feels bigger. Try that once more, as if you've been playing like that all your life. Let me help you being a metronome once more. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. Good. And then when we get to the first slower section, it's interesting because we have this tempo, and then it goes down. But if you go too fast, then the adjustment of tempos becomes really a little bit odd. Now we have. I always imagine listening to someone like Yo-Yo Ma playing this. It feels like cello music, but it plunges into a really flat key. Go from F major into, what key is this? Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly. Well done. What a smart boy you are. Everything they said about you was true. Now, take your time with the 16th notes and make it feel like you have a nice vibrato. It's the question now is how you use it. I wouldn't use it so much there. And it says consentimento. It's the first time we see that word. So you can really take a bit more time. Try from 2, 3, and B double flat. Oh, so yeah, so we've got that one. So it's a D, a C double sharp. Okay, so you'll never ever play that wrong again because you'll remember this moment. Okay, just try that part. Carry on. Good. I was hoping you fix it second time, but still. Just a little bit of the cadenza, all right? You're free here, but make sure it has to make sense. But not too fast. Okay. Because it's a cadenza doesn't mean it's a chance for you to show your ultimate virtuosity. It has to be in the context of this piece. And also the 16th notes, again, automatic going a bit quicker. So be nice to the short notes. Yeah, don't just think, away you go. That was really well done, and that was beautiful. And now just the ending, and then we're done. Well done. Fantastic. Gradually getting faster. Well done. That's it.
Alan is next. There's Alan.
How you doing? Looks like Mr. Horowitz.
I'm really glad you mentioned
We were
this.
talking. Good. Okay. So now to the. So this piece, this piece was composed in 1971 and was premiered in 1972 as a Royal Albert Hall. Super concert. And the guy who premiered it was Trevor Groom. I'm very happy to say he was my teacher for a couple of years. It was written for Trevor Groom. Horowitz liked to conduct, but he was a pretty terrible conductor. Even in the slogan, he used to thrash like this, which really confused people, but his music was good. So is it the first movement?
Yes.
Yep. So the first movement, this has been on examination lists, auditions, entrance auditions for conservatory forever, but since 1972. So it's a really important piece. You know, if you're a tuba player, it would be the Vaughan Williams. If it was your trumpet player, you'd play the Haydn or the whole Strauss one, if you're a horn player. And so Horowitz's first movement is our rite of passage, as you probably know. Okay, here we go. I better not shoot the tempo. Play it the way you want, and let's see where we go. Sound, very clean articulation, fingers working okay, good breath control. So there's not much wrong, except again because you're up here and it's unaccompanied, you're letting the tempos run a little bit. You lose a bit of the lyrical beauty if you go too fast. Same tempo, even though the piano in this little interlude goes fast, it pulls it back to the original tempo. In the same tempo, but a calm stuff. So those are the three sections. And then we begin a crescendo. And because of the tempo you were going, it was exactly the same tempo as the beginning of the piece. So what I want to do is work on this section first. And you have the same kind of distrust of short notes as Jonas did, where you kind of hurry them along. Take the time, put your arms out, okay? Let's go from here. Yes, please, yeah. 1, 2, 3. That's fantastic. The vital ingredient is that we started that section too fast. Exactly. So, let's go back to the very beginning. The general rule with Horowitz, the way we play his music, is if you have a full-length note, you make it absolutely full-length. And if you have short notes, we make them slightly short. Then you get this combination of beautiful sustained melody and really clear articulation and short notes. So think about that. So not and whether you use a bit of vibrato or you play it straight, doesn't matter. If Horowitz was here, that would be kind of weird. But he would probably say, oh, you can use some vibrato here. What's the matter with you? Funny guy. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Absolutely. You hear different character now in the melody. It's always the same thing. You stand up, you may feel fine, but your heart may be just going 10 clicks faster than it normally is, and that affects the tempo. So just say, get up here, boom, 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 and then it comes out the way you want. So any of you have to do an examination or a recital, don't let the fact that you're thinking too much about the occasion change your interpretation. Trust your air. Just put your hand down for a minute. Your breathing actually is in great condition. But you're all wind players, most of you. Yeah? So we're going to breathe together. Just if you want. Yes. So sit up straight in the chair, like you're in a sitting up straight competition. Do such a thing. And I want you now to see. No, it's okay. Some people won't do that. Think of 3 spaces. The first space is the space you have here. I want you to try and yawn. Not too noisy, but try and, there's a beautiful one. I can always tell when they're real or when they're fake. So try and, if it happens, it happens. Yawn. This time of day it should be fairly easy. Good. Your second space, right down. Beautiful. Your second space is the space in the mouth, what I call the singer space. That's space number 2. So now breathe in with space number 1 open and space number 2 high. Like giants. Sneeze as well, but it's not the same. And then the third space. So that was all that. You're probably thinking, well, that felt nice. Oh, I never breathed like that. Try it, it's good. And the third space is the space between your teeth. Now, take your little finger and put it between your teeth. Do not bite. I'm just saying that as a safety thing. You have to say in America, warning, may be hot. Warning, may be hot. So do not bite your finger. Put it between your mouth and breathe in and out. Make space 1 and 2 really high. Keep the space, take your finger away. Keep the space and breathe together. From here. Right, remember that sensation. We're going to breathe in for 4 seconds and out for 4 seconds. Here we go. 4 in, 8 out. Is that you, or did you drop something? If that was your body making that noise, you really need to go and see someone. We need to train the breath, just as you need to train the fingers and the arms. Because believe you me, going back to brass bands, the brass bands never make mistakes when it's fast and loud. It always sounds amazing. This band will win it. And then it all goes quiet and slow. You hear little misfiring soloist or the tuning drops off. So that's why you need to practice your air. What have I set off in all the physical elements are coming out? Try to work on it. Now your air is great. Show them a deep breath, like 4 and 4. Join in, no diminuendo. Well done. The diminuendo is natural. So I realized at a fairly young age, I was a little bit small guy to be playing a big instrument. So I learned also from my singing. I wanted the end of the phrase to sound just as good as the beginning. Now, as a brass player, we use more air, so it's doubly important. So if you sing, you know, you're already halfway there. Good yawn. That's the biggest one. Throw something. Not running down. So we've done our fantastic acceleration. We're going to try the next section, which actually is the fastest. This is 120. This was 80 or 92. Okay, here we go. And it only says menor morceau because that was 136. So we're slowing down from the piano interlude. Here we go. Yeah, sorry. I was putting it at Mead height. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Big breath. Slow page turn, enables you to let water out. It's only one measure really, but yeah, special needs. 1, 2, 3. And Horowitz's accents always have a little bit of extra. You like that because it always comes up. 1, 2, 3, and. Okay, check notes. If I had a pound for every time somebody forgot the D flat holding to the bar, I wouldn't be here now. I'd be in the Bahamas on the boat. No, I still be here, don't worry. Okay, just a question. 1, 2, 3. Relax the body, let it sink. Good sound. That's good. It's interesting when I said relax, suddenly your arms went out. As say, oh, thank you. Whether you play the trumpet or whether you play trombone, it's very easy with concentration for the body to lock up. So if you just write on your part, relax, relax. For me, when I was a kid, I used to write breathe, don't forget to breathe. Don't forget. Especially at brass band competitions when you're nervous, you go, I should have breathed. And how many times you need that conversation before you remember? So relax, right at the top of each page, you see it, you go, thank you. Stay cool, because your sound is very good. We're going to try the ending, okay? Just like the beginning, and then we have a pretty exciting, but not too fast ending. So I'll tell you the story of this. In the first edition of this concerto, 1972, it said accelerando molto al fine. And so players went, and it was like watching a car crash. Exactly. And so so many of these, he said, Steve, how can I stop players playing too fast? And I said, you could just say accelerando poco. He said, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to write a tempo. I said, well, they may ignore that, you know. So what he wants now is like you have here. So this is the final edition, 1992 edition. 3 editions, and this is the newest one. So quick, you can single time it, or with no crazy acceleration. He's still listening. The lights go out, we know. Okay, here we go, from there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Bigger. So you want to slur it? No. Why didn't you tell me? I wouldn't. If you just said, can we stop here? I go, yeah, no problem. Nope. Too late. Next time. Let's single tongue it slowly and just find out the notes, okay? And we'll stop on the written G flat just from there. 3, 4, go. Second bar. That's it. Once more. Get friendly with it. 3, 4, 1. Yeah, you can do it on 2 and 3, but the tuning is shocking. Yeah. Okay, we're getting familiar with it now. Now let's keep the same speed, but put some direction. Like little wavelets. 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we think musically, actually our digits and fingers actually behave a little better because we're doing the real stuff. Now can you go bim, bum, 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 bum. Slowly, as slow as you like, starting on the G flat. That's good. Just while we're all playing a high C, you're playing it fine. Put your first finger here like it's absolutely straight, like it's that wire there. Absolutely straight, and I want you to go. Great, so this is an air arpeggio, air scales. Very good if you tend to tighten up on high notes, because often people go, and the finger goes to like 45 degrees, which means your bottom lip says, hey, I'm out of here, I'm not going to vibrate. So let's all try it. I can tell already, it's great. Using up his time, but I'm sorry about that. It's my fault. Can we go, like you're playing a finger flute. Okay. Now try and keep the tone of your high note the same as the first one. So not. So your challenge is to not press any harder when you play high. Because if you go, you know what that's going to sound like. So your tongue is going to rise up. Oh-wee, oh-wee. Can we just listen to this one? A moment. Okay, now just bring your finger down to there. Keep it straight. Keep this exactly the same. Yeah, exactly. Because we tend to mimic what we do with the mouthpiece. Or smile, which is the worst thing of all. When you smile, if any of you think, God, he's talking about me, you basically say to your embouchure, I don't need you at this moment. It's just a battle. So your two important muscles, if they're not all important, are the two that live just here. Take two fingers, have a little press just here, and they control your embouchure. Take them away and feel that those muscles are still going to do their job. In a scale, and there you're fixing muscles. Now, we've got just 1 minute left. Yeah. As slow as you like. You can practice the fast version later. Let's see if we get to the top. And see, just check you're not smiling or looking uncomfortable again. Take a big breath in the head. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Breathe again here. Well done. We're stumbling a little bit. We're still learning to walk. But we'll try once more. Just a touch faster. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and go. That's really impressive. But did you forget to breathe? So let's not breathe there then. Let's take a huge breath and see you at the top. Last time. 1, 2, 3, 4.
That was cool. And we've got Glenn from McNeese University.
15?
Yeah, 15. And then we can do questions.
Yeah. Hi, how are you? Glenn. If you're playing a concert, some of these people, I paid $30 to sit on the front row and I can't see your face. So think about that, just get used to, if you're really clever, you notice your eyes can actually change direction. It's amazing. I discovered it some time ago. But just a few notes. Yeah, just get into the room. So Harlequin by Philip Stark, super piece. It's another rite of passage, but 25 years after Mr. Horowitz. Now, how much of this have you done? I'm going to ask the question now.
I'm preparing just the first page for today, but I'm working on the rest of it.
There's enough here.
Yes.
There's enough here. Okay. Well, I won't make you sign. Okay, here we go. Take your time and enjoy it. Enjoy the space. bars, the bars rest. Your muscles are going, yes please, yes please. Okay. Okay. So this section is an ossia. You can either play that really boring octave, or you can play one octave higher. And guess what we're going to do now? You've got a good high register. I've heard it already. So we're going up. 1 and 2 and 3. Of course you can. Let's carry on. Well done. Nervous but good. You see, that's okay. I get nervous before concerts. I had a conversation this morning over lunch about, do you still go? Yeah, because I care about it. If you care, you get nervous. If you don't care, well, sounds like you don't care. I don't. So that's no good. People want to know that you really care about how it comes out. Now, you play very well. You've got a super embouchure for the high notes. You seem pretty relaxed. I would like you, just take your hands away, I would like you to breathe a bit more from here. You're a really strong player, strong chops, but you're a little bit high, not high. You breathe a little high. Put your hands here and just watch this and then copy it. I'm going to exaggerate slightly. I'm going to try and keep all this out of it. Just for now, I'm working on part 1. Part 1, part 2, and part 3 is that expansion. Just work on 1 for me. Yeah, doesn't really move. Again, part 1. I want people to see because they can't see anything. So 1 is here. So you make this space number 1, open it up like it's a giant new piece of piping you've got outside your house, with air or whatever, rain goes away. No, we're exaggerating. Do it a couple of times. Try and keep this really still. Once more. Yeah, that's a little better. You're quite strong and you're quite rigid. You feel that?
Yes.
You go to the gym? Yeah, stop that nonsense. You need to be flexible. So go to the gym, but don't spend too much time making this solid. I had a guy from Lithuania. Some of the funny players may know now, he has a very popular website called Matonis. Well, his name was Arvidas Matonis, and I met him as a 13-year-old boy in Lithuania on a summer course. He kind of walked out of trees with this old Russian baritone and he'd say, okay, we got to get to work on you. He practiced all day. His instrument was horrible. Really had no water keys, string, not even elastic bands. So it was just... Anyway, he grew and he grew and he grew. But by the time he came to Manchester, he was a gym guy. He go to the gym every day. And he's still a bit like this, but he became so rigid here, you know. He didn't, you know, he came in with a t-shirt and his muscles. It was very impressive. But his breathing got actually worse. Well, he played great, but in Manchester got worse because he became so muscle bound. And you just need to, so you need to exercise, don't get me wrong, but don't get too rigid in the middle of the body. Now, I noticed a few times at the beginnings of phrases, once we got into the phrase, it was okay. So if you breathe low, did you sing at all?
I do.
Sing me the beginning, there'll be a bit of music. Good. Just work on now going with a good sound, not hesitant. Okay, now you all know those 5 notes. Here we go. And half of you could probably keep going. And you should be thinking about this all the time. Join in if you know it. Beginning. And at the end of that phrase, it's like we're at the end of the bow. And one or two of your phrases were a little bit short early on. I always say to people, imagine you're playing the cello, because when I was a teacher training coach, to be a high school teacher, I had 4 weeks of cello. And unfortunately, it was a real one. So I bought an electric cello later. My wife bought it for my birthday. And with headphones on, you're the only person that hears it. That's my kind of cello. Now, we're going to go to the beginning once more. Now, you've relaxed now, you've sounded great first time. Be a little bit freer. I want to hear a bit more nuance. So you really attract people's attention. Here you go. Big breath, low breath. Every breath you take, down to number 1. Now relax, the balloon looks good. Well done. Here, now you've got a support from here. Okay, you pick up that run. When you did it first time, we went through like an embouchure, and that's why the middle notes malfunction. It's a bit like we did earlier on. Just that phrase, that's great. and there's a little bit rhythmic malfunction here, because you're playing it as you see it and as you feel it, but not exactly as it's written. It's only subtle, but if Phillips Bart was here, he'd say, and he's still alive and he's still cooking. He's amazing. So I thought, while you were playing, I thought I'm going to start a new society in Louisiana called the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Short Notes. You have to care about the little notes because you try to slot them in as if there's some kind of irrelevance, and then you think, it doesn't sound, can't really hear those notes. So yeah, we'll get a website, you can all sign up for it, and there'll be just on the front page, you'll see this, a line of 16 notes. You can foster one, you can nominate. You've got to be nice to the short notes. One more time from here, with the first member. And so make sure, and one of the very first lesson I ever took with Trevor Broom, the guy who the Horowitz concerto was written for, he was a Salvation Army guy then. So when I started teaching with him, teaching from him, he was 50 years of age. He's now 92. So you can do all the maths to work out that, you're about 17. He said, you have to love all the short notes. He said, when I was in the Salvation Army, we used to march on the street corner and we'd play marches and hymn tunes. And he said, you had to remember, because he was a very religious man, even the short notes can give people a blessing. I never forget that. Even the short notes, he thought it religiously, but he said, make sure when you play fast music, even the short notes, and actually, of course, when you hear a phrase and the short notes are not taken care of, you hear like a dropout in intensity. So you sound great, the tops are good, work on the low notes a bit, work on breathing from here. That'll take some of the stress and the tightness that can creep in. Eyes are good, technique sounds fine so far. Be nice to the short notes, because you're now in my society, in the club. Congratulations.
Yeah, 15 minutes or so.
Go. Don't be shy. There we go.
When going in for an audition, in your experience, what do you think helps the most with performance anxiety?
Me personally.
Yes, sir.
Well, being prepared, I would say, was the first thing. Because if you go into an audition knowing that you can play, everything else, I guess you have to work on and control. If you go in and you're not sure of that rhythm and you're not sure whether that high note's going to come out, you've got a right to be nervous. If you have a freestyle audition where you can pick your own piece, don't pick anything that's too difficult. From being on many panels, it's always nicer when somebody comes in, feels confident, and plays something slightly easier really well. That's a really, rather than the hardest piece and you think, if I really go for this piece, they'll think I'm amazing. Because it may be just out of your depth. The other thing is, I've always said to students, if you control breathing, you control the game. If playing music was a game. Once you're in control of your air, under any circumstance, you're in control. If you're breathing, you've never really thought about it or focused on it, you go in and you think, gosh, my heart's pounding, my air doesn't go anywhere. So control the breathing. Practice any fast pieces so slowly and so many times that when you go, even if your heart's beating at 144, it's still going to come out the way you planned. So practice slowly. I would also make sure that I would have tryout auditions. So I'd get a group of friends together and say, please, can you come in room G10? Can you just sit down there? I want to play for you. And friends, they may be on their phone at the time, whatever, but there's people in the room and you're playing for them. So have tryouts. Otherwise, it's like going to the dentist every 6 years. You think it's going to be 10 minutes from hell. And if you go every 2 months, it's a bill. Providing you still got some kids left. So regular performance experience is important. And then what you're talking about actually becomes really okay. Good practice, control your breathing, and lots of tryouts. And then you actually quite look forward to giving your best in front of people that matter, rather than something horrendous and scary. Does that help a little bit?
Yes, sir, thank you.
There's no magic pills you can take. It's all natural stuff. Yeah, good. Yeah.
Do you think it's better to stay focused on one instrument or be well versed in multiple?
That's a good question. As a euphonium player, all my students in Manchester and Italy and other places where I teach, they need to focus on that, because if that's your nominated instrument, you need to be pretty good, otherwise you're not a chance of doing any work. But then the question of the doubling is what? I've had some brilliant students. Aaron Tyndall, who's now the tuba professor at Miami Frost School of Music, he studied master's degree with me on euphonium. And towards the end of his 2 years with me, he said, I'm going to play with the brass quintet now. I said, what are you playing? I'm playing tuba. Well, and that was the beginning of his move, and now he's one of the most famous tuba teachers in the country. Very successful. So he doubled, and in the end, one took care of itself. I have euphonium players who play really good trombone. The question is when you start messing around, not with styles, but with mouthpieces, little mouthpiece on the trombone, and then maybe a slightly overbeat. So I think it's great. We live in a world where it's not easy to get employment or even regular casual work as a brass player. So if you're good on 2 instruments, if you're James Morrison and can play all of them, then way to go. But most people don't live on that planet. So you play
French horn, I also do a bit of trumpet, saxophone, trombone, and baritone.
Yeah. So the answer to the question is yes. If I said no, you'd be really upset. What am I doing? But don't lose your specialism on one. I think if you can feel that you really do really well on one, you're probably going to get more work on that and the backup, But euphonium players who play Aftercline or, Serpent or things like that, that work's going to be around, but it's not every week. But when it comes, they say, oh, John plays the Aftercline, give him the call. That's quite important to create a reputation, trust, and reliability on a certain instrument. Depends whether you're going to play the symphony or the local wind orchestra, but you're going to be busier the more instruments you play, and happier probably. Thanks for the question. Yeah. Yeah. Hi.
What was the first song? What was the name of the first song?
The first song today was the Concertino by Rolf Wilhelm. Concertino, published by Trio Publications in Germany, available on euphoniumstore.net. The site that I read is pretty good. Also with wind orchestra, there is a brass band version, but not an official one. So wind orchestra or piano. Nice piece. Yeah, nice piece. The last movement is pretty tricky, I have to say. It's got some range and even an exposed high concert D, which I'm sure you know about. Yeah, good. Next. Yeah.
What advice would you give to kind of mimic your characteristic euphonium vibrato that you have?
To mimic it.
Yes.
I don't want to mimic anything. You mean how to adopt it if you don't use it? Yeah, vibrato is kind of, everywhere I go, everyone has a different take on it. You go to Germany and you talk about vibratos, it's like change the subject, you're going to get arrested. So certain musical situations, you need to sound beautiful without, and if you, even in brass band, which is the home of vibrato, historically, because we used to pick up operatic arrangements, so this was the principal tenore, and some call it, and that tradition has stayed within brass bands, and it stayed within our repertoire as well. So I like to think of it as a natural sound. Some people say, look, I've tried to get vibrato and it doesn't come out. So that's a good basic sound. And you say, well, I want to add vibrato to that, but I can't do it. You say, well, try again. Nothing moving. So I'm going to teach you all traditional euphonium vibrato in 15 seconds. Copy me. Ya, 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 ya.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
No voice. Well done. That's the tricky one. And now, blow a long column of air with the jaw doing that. Now put your finger here, imagine it's the mouthpiece, so you keep the lips in a good position and redo the previous step. Okay, join me on the second one. Here we go. So that's a gentle. As a singer, my vibrato would be here. I would never go. There's a place for people to do that. So the difference is the vibrato moves from here to here. So if you're in doubt and you want to try it out, not if you're a French horn player, it's not allowed. If you're an orchestral trombone player, be careful, word may spread. But euphonium players, if you're playing beautiful music, like the second movement, so just play straight notes, play vibrato, and so you can control the variables. You don't want accidental vibrato, otherwise you'll find it's there all the time. And then the teacher will say, right, no vibrato for 3 months. Almost a change, you know? So you don't want, that kind of negative therapy. Just experiment with it. And then you decide what sounds pretty. No, some composers say Popovid, some composers say Senzovid, if they think the music might be abused. So, but have it, it's an expressive tool. You do it quite naturally, maybe you don't know how you do it, it's just there. But that means we need to understand. So, ya, 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 air, keep the finger there. You've got yourself a vibrato, they would say. Anyway, one more question? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if this is your first time in Louisiana
It is.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the question is, have you had an opportunity to try any of our food, and if so, do you have a favorite?
Yes, and yes. So, in the car from the airport yesterday, they started, the mother started talking about gumbo. And I said exactly what, so I thought it was a bit like the kind of soup that you get with like ramen noodles. In a way it is.
Sacrilege. I actually do have a ramen shop here in Lafayette that serves the gumbo ramen.
Is it open now?
That's
No, I knew it wasn't the same, but there's this kind of sacred thing about the taste of the soup in Kumamoto, the Kumamoto ramen, and I was enjoying it so much, I would literally pick up the bowl and they said, no, you're not supposed to eat all of it. So I'd eaten all the noodles, and I'd eaten the pork, and I'd eaten the egg, and the taste was so good, they said, actually, it's not so healthy. Which is what they say about gumbo, so be careful. I enjoyed it. And then last night at the reception, we had some prawns with something else. I don't know what that was.
Yeah, it was like andouille sausage or something. Yeah.
So that was good.
Yeah.
And some crab, which I thought would be spicy and more.
Whatever.
So I did have a nice introduction, and I enjoyed it. And I'm going to move here. I'm going to buy a house here. I'll be calling my wife later. I'm sure she'll understand. Okay, one more question. Yes, sir.
How do you decide when you're starting to play your piece? How do you decide on your attention?
That's a good question. I guess it depends on the musical language of the piece. If it's a piece that's been out there and been around and I've never really heard it, I've never worked on it before, I would obviously play it through and work out how it works. I would probably listen to some recordings and say, interesting, that's faster than marked, and I like the explosives. And then I would form my own version based on my experience. So learning to play it in terms of nuts and bolts, working out the structure of the piece, looking carefully at tempo, and in the end you put a bit of yourself into it. How you color notes and how you move and how you shape cadenzas and things like that. So I think the more experience you get, and then you kind of work out how much time you have to perfect it. If somebody says, can you play this piece next week? I would try and play all the notes and play it right, but I need a bit more time. It's like putting on a jacket, you know, it looks pretty, but it's not really yours, you know what I mean? So, but I played some really contemporary pieces. You know, I'm thinking of two pieces. The Agard Nielsen Phony Concerto, like 24 minutes long, 14 solo pages, all of which look like ink has been just thrown over the music. And ants have run around while it's still been wet, just regular. And I was the first at the premiere, so there was no recording, and the composer kept finding me out and saying, anything you want me to change? No. What about that Super 8 that near the end? Is it okay? So I've used repertoire to actually help me develop. And however the contemporary the language, by the time you come to a performance, you have to live every note. Doesn't matter how angular, whether it's based on, you know, 10s, 13s, and so forth, and turn things upside down, even 12-tone music. You learn it so it becomes friendly, and that's why I need time with contemporary most. I don't ever copy anyone else's version. I like to think you may copy mine all day. But no, I like to understand the music and then try and just imagine that the composer is sitting there and it's better than I imagined. That's the nicest reaction you ever get from a composer. When you understand it and you bring it to life, and then you color it, because on the piano or however they compose, they never get that spirit that you can get with a live instrument. So that's what I aim for. It's a very good question. But I could put down 4 bits of music from something melodic to something normal, something historic, classical, and then something really squeaky. My approach would be different to each one, actually. Yeah. And it also depends how much time. I had 4 months to learn the Agard Nielsen concerto. And the other one, which I was going to mention, is the Hallows Concerto by Rolf Rudin, which is a beast, even longer, 26 minutes, with symphony orchestra only. And that's probably 2007, probably the biggest musical challenge in my life. Because, quick story, sorry. Rudin had been saying to me for like 8 years before that, I really want to write you a concerto. Me too want. And then he said, look, do you know anyone that can give money for commission? Well, commissioning a German composer, whatever it was, you know, $15,000, it's a big thing. And money in the UK is usually for UK composers. Anyway, some years later he said, Stephen, I think our concerto may happen because the Stuttgart Philharmonic have commissioned him to write a concert overture, a piece for strings, and a solo concerto. And they said to him, what solo concerto would you like? And he said, Euphonium. And they said, what the hell is that? They were expecting violin or, you know, at worst piano. So he said, they're not sure about the euphonium. So I said, what can I do? Do you want me to come and play for them? Or whatever this group is? He said, look, can you put together a recording? I said, yeah, sure. He said, no band. Do not submit a band group. So I had to overcome all these prejudices. I put together something with electronics, a recording I had with strings, some with the piano, some contemporary solo, and literally 3 months later they said they'd given the go-ahead. So September 9th, 2007, I was in Stuttgart, the Beethoven Saal, Beethoven, fancy a hall called Beethoven, and the hall was packed, and it was the longest day of my life, because I had a rehearsal in the morning, like 10 till 1, lunch, and because I checked out my hotel, I was back in my dressing room at 2 p.m. And the concert started at 8. And I paced around. I could still draw you an exact picture of my dressing room, where the mirrors were, and it was like, this is the most important musical day of your life. get your head around this. And I had time to think about it. Do not play, do not stand away from the euphonium, because otherwise I'd just be playing all afternoon. And it really went great. And I'll tell you the nicest thing, last point. After the concert, I was in the dressing room, I was covered in flowers that they'd given me. And this old lady, very beautiful old lady, she must have been late 70s. She said, you're the man with the euphonium. I said, yes, that's me. I'm very disappointed. And said, oh God, here we go. I am now an old lady. I have been coming to the symphony orchestra for 40 years. And only now I hear the euphonium. It is so beautiful. And that blew my mind. There was a lady who knew all her symphonies, that heard some, and she just fell in love with the sound euphonium. So there's hope for all of us yet. There's hope that if you play really nice, people say, I don't know what it is, that's some kind of baritone. But if you play it beautifully, you'll win a fan every day. And if you play a trumpet, or if you play the trombone and play it beautifully, people say, I had no idea that the trombone can sound good. I had no idea the trumpet could be so musical. That's our challenge. We think of the challenge as the next piece, the next audition, but as a live challenge, make your instrument sound beautiful, play for people, play for church, play for your family, play at Christmas time, make a little video, put it on YouTube, put it on Facebook, put it on TikTok, if you really want to go there, and let people follow you, let people take an interest in what you do, it'll motivate you to do more. That's really what I did even before YouTube was invented. Anyway, it's been absolutely great. Thanks for staying for the session. I appreciate it.